Imagine standing on a freezing street corner in Uptown Charlotte at 3 in the morning. You're alone. You don't have your coat, your wallet, or your cash. You make 9 desperate phone calls to your family, and no one answers. 30 minutes later, your phone goes dead forever. It's 3:28 in the morning on November 9th, 2007. The city of Charlotte, North Carolina, is wrapped in a freezing late autumn chill. Inside a quiet home, a cell phone begins to glow, cutting through the darkness. It vibrates against the wood of a nightstand. No one answers. A few moments later, the screen goes dark. It was the 9th phone call made in the span of just over an hour. Every single one of them went unanswered. No voicemails were left. And just 32 minutes later, at exactly 4 a.m., the phone pinged a local cell tower one final time, before dying forever. The hands making those desperate calls belonged to 24-year-old Kyle Fleischmann. He was charismatic, well-liked, a recent Elon University graduate with everything going for him. But on this particular night, he walked out of an Uptown Charlotte venue, stepped into the freezing air without his coat, his wallet, or his debit card, and walked straight into a void. For nearly 2 decades, the glittering skyline of the Queen City has hidden a dark secret. What happened to Kyle in the shadows of Uptown? And is it possible that the answers aren't buried in the past, but are sealed beneath the concrete foundations of the city itself? To understand how someone utterly vanishes from a bustling metropolitan center, we have to look at the hours leading up to the silence. It was Thursday, November 8th. Kyle Fleischmann was spending the evening like many young professionals in Charlotte do. He attended a comedy show at the Blumenthal Performing Arts Center with a group of close friends. Kyle was in high spirits. He had recently started a new job as a healthcare recruiter. He loved his family, and by all accounts, he was happy. After the comedy show let out, the group decided to keep the night going. They headed over to the Buckhead Saloon, a popular bar located on North College Street in Uptown Charlotte. Inside, the music was loud, the energy was high, and the drinks were flowing. But as the clock ticked past midnight and ticked closer to 2 a.m., the energy shifted. The night was winding down. Kyle's friends were tired, ready to call it a night and head home. But Kyle wasn't ready to leave just yet. He told his friends he wanted to stay a little longer. It was a seemingly minor, everyday decision. His friends said their goodbyes, walked out the door, and left Kyle at the bar. It's a moment that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. At approximately 2:20 a.m., the Buckhead Saloon closed its doors. Surveillance footage from a nearby business captures Kyle walking out onto the street. The footage is chilling in its normalcy, but when you look closer, the red flags appear. The temperature outside had plummeted into the 30s. Yet, Kyle is seen walking into the freezing night wearing nothing but a light black long-sleeved shirt. His heavy winter coat was left behind inside the bar. His wallet and his debit card were also missing, left in the coat, or perhaps lost in the venue. He was alone, cold, and stranded in the middle of the night without any money. What happened next is a frantic, heartbreaking puzzle told entirely through digital footprints. Between 2:42 a.m. and 3:28 a.m., Kyle's cell phone became his lifeline. He began dialing, desperately trying to reach someone. Anyone. He called his best friend. No answer. He called his sister. No answer. He called his roommate. No answer. He called his father. No answer. 9 phone calls in 76 minutes. Imagine the scene. A young man, freezing, walking through the dark, concrete corridors of Uptown Charlotte, listening to the monotonous ring of a phone. waiting for a voice to answer on the other end. But because it was a weeknight, and because it was 3 in the morning, everyone he loved was fast asleep. During this window of time, Kyle was spotted by a taxi driver. He tried to hail the cab, but the driver already had a passenger and couldn't pick him up. The driver would later report that Kyle didn't seem panicked or heavily intoxicated. Just a guy trying to get home. But Kyle's path wasn't leading toward his apartment. For some unknown reason, he began walking away from his home and toward a neighborhood known as Optimist Park, just outside of the main Uptown Loop. Why did he go that way? Was he being followed? Was he disoriented from the cold? Or was he meeting someone? At 3:28 a.m., he placed his final call to his father. Like the others, it rang out into the night. At 4 a.m., the phone connected to a tower in the Optimist Park area one last time, and then the signal vanished. The phone was either turned off, the battery died, or it was destroyed. Kyle Fleischmann had entered the dark, and he was never seen again. When Kyle didn't show up for work the next morning, the alarm was sounded immediately. This wasn't a reckless kid pulling a disappearing act. This was entirely out of character. His family, friends, and the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department launched a massive search. Flyers with Kyle's face flooded Uptown Charlotte. But the most haunting breakthrough in the investigation came when search dogs were brought in. Bloodhounds were given Kyle's scent. They tracked his movements from the Buckhead Saloon down the streets of Uptown and directly into the Optimist Park and NoDa areas. The dogs followed the invisible trail with terrifying precision until they arrived at a specific location, an active, massive commercial construction site where new apartment complexes and condos were being built. The dogs tracked Kyle's scent right to the edge of the construction zone, and then they stopped. At the time, the site was a chaotic landscape of turned earth, heavy machinery, and freshly poured concrete foundations. Private investigators and Kyle's family grew convinced of a horrific theory. Kyle had crossed paths with someone dangerous that night, perhaps a robbery attempt that escalated into violence. To hide the crime quickly, his body may have been disposed of on the construction site, permanently sealed beneath thousands of pounds of wet concrete poured just hours later. Despite the family's desperate pleas, the legal hurdles and logistics of tearing up freshly poured foundations of a massive private development proved impossible without definitive, hard evidence. The concrete remained intact, and the trail went cold. Over the years, theories have swirled. Some believe Kyle simply wandered into the construction site in the dark, disoriented by hypothermia, fell into a deep trench, and was accidentally covered by workers the next day. Others are certain of foul play, believing someone took advantage of a young man stranded without his wallet or a ride home. To this day, no one has ever been charged. No remains have ever been found. Kyle's mother passed away without ever knowing what happened to her son. His father and sister still hold on to the hope that someone, somewhere, will finally break their silence. Every day, thousands of people drive past those buildings, walk those streets, and live their lives in the shadows of the Charlotte skyline, completely unaware of the mystery buried right beneath their feet. What do you think happened to Kyle Fleischmann on that freezing November night? Were those 9 phone calls a cry for help, or just a young man trying to find a ride home? Let me know your theories in the comments below. I'm Marcus Hayes, and this is Case Files After Dark. Stay safe out there, North Carolina.